All right. So are you ready to dive deep with us today into Bob Proctor's You Were Born Rich?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
This book is a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
And we're going to really dig into all the ways we can unlock our potential, for wealth and success and all of the good stuff.
Yeah, it's funny how a book with a title like that can actually challenge so much of what we think we know about wealth.
Right.
Proctor isn't just talking about being born with a silver spoon.
Yeah.
He's talking about a mindset,
I think so too.
a birthright of abundance that we all have.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit because Proctor, he really emphasizes the power of belief.
Right.
He even tells the story about this guy who walks across hot coals, totally convinced he's not going to get burned.
Oh, wow.
And he doesn't.
What?
But then just moments later,
Interesting.
he doubts himself for just a second, steps back onto the coals and burns his feet.
Oh, no.
It's like this dramatic example of how powerful our beliefs can be, even when it comes to something that's really physical.
Absolutely. And it really shows how these ingrained beliefs, what Proctor calls paradigms, can truly make or break us.
Yeah.
It's like there are these invisible scripts running in the background,
Right.
dictating, how we see the world and what we think is possible for us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, those scripts are totally outdated.
Yeah.
And they're limiting us without us even realizing it.
So it's not even enough to just want something.
Right.
You have to believe it's actually possible for you.
Totally.
But how do we actually reprogram those super deeply ingrained beliefs, especially when they feel so real
Yeah.
and unchangeable?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah. It's one thing to just say, oh, I believe I can be wealthy.
Right.
But it's another thing to feel it in your bones.
Yeah, Proctor dives into this by talking about what he calls C-type goals.
Okay.
These are goals that are so big,
Uh-huh.
they force us to grow in order to achieve them.
So give me an example.
So think of it like this. If your goal is to climb Mount Everest,
Okay.
you can't just wish yourself to the top.
Yeah.
You have to train and prepare,
Right, for it.
develop the skills and resilience needed to get there.
So the goal itself
Yeah,
becomes this catalyst for transformation.
Exactly. The goal isn't just about the end result.
I like that.
It's about who you become in the process of achieving it.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about this whole visualization thing?
Yes.
Because Proctor talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
Is he just saying we should sit around and daydream about being rich?
Not quite. He's talking about more than just daydreams.
Okay.
He's talking about really experiencing your success in your mind.
So it's like what?
Almost like method acting for your future self.
Okay.
You're not just imagining the outcome, but you're feeling the emotions, you're sensing the details,
Wow.
even smelling the success, so to speak.
That's why
By vividly experiencing it in our minds, we start to believe it's possible on a much deeper level.
So we're shifting our mindset. We're setting these huge goals.
Yes.
We're getting our mental movie making skills up to par.
Love it.
But how does all this actually start to manifest in our reality?
Right.
Where's that connection between our inner world and the outer world of bank accounts and opportunities?
That's where the law of vibration and attraction comes in.
Okay, so explain that to me.
Think about it like tuning a radio.
All right.
You can't hear a specific station
Yeah.
unless you adjust the dial to the right frequency, right?
Right.
Our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are all vibrating at certain frequencies, and we tend to attract experiences that match those frequencies.
So if we're constantly thinking about lack and scarcity,
Exactly.
that's the station we're tuned into.
That's the station you're tuned into.
And we're going to get more of the same.
Yes. And if we can shift to a frequency of abundance, that's when things start to change.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's not to say that we should ignore any negative thoughts or feelings. That's the part of being human.
Yeah. But the key is to become aware of them, acknowledge them,
Yeah.
and then consciously choose to focus on thoughts and feelings that are aligned with what we actually want to create.
So it's about being more intentional with our mental diet, so to speak.
Exactly.
But how do we actually shift those frequencies?
That's a good question.
Are we just supposed to force ourselves to feel happy and abundant all the time?
Not necessarily. Proctor talks about the subconscious mind as this kind of control center that's often running on these outdated programs.
Interesting.
And to rewrite those programs,
Yeah.
we need to feed it new information.
How do we do that?
This is where things like positive affirmations and self-talk come in.
So even if we don't totally believe it at first, just saying something over and over like, I am worthy of abundance,
Yeah.
can start to chip away at those old beliefs
Exactly.
and make new pathways in our subconscious.
Exactly. And remember that story about the man walking on coals?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't start by walking across a whole bed of hot coals. He started with small steps, building his belief and confidence with each successful attempt.
So it's kind of like the same thing.
It's the same with changing our mindset.
Small steps.
We don't have to make a radical shift overnight.
I can do that.
Yeah.
This is all starting to click now. It's like taking those small, consistent steps, both internally and externally,
Yes.
to align ourselves with the reality that we want.
Exactly.
So we're setting these big goals, we're visualizing them, we're raising our vibration, we're taking action.
Yes.
It feels like a lot to juggle.
Well, you brought up action, and that's crucial.
Okay.
Proctor emphasizes that it's not enough to simply think positive thoughts and visualize our goals.
But you have to do something.
We have to take aligned action, or
Okay.
inspired action, that's fueled by the belief that we're capable of achieving what we set out to do.
So it's this dance between the inner work of shifting our mindset
Yes.
and the outer work of taking practical steps towards our goals.
It is.
But what about when that fear and doubt inevitably creep in? How do we deal with those things
Right.
when they threaten to like derail all of our progress?
That's a great question, and it's something that we'll dig into much deeper when we come back.
Awesome. Can't wait.
We'll explore Proctor's insights on courage and faith and the power of gratitude in overcoming those inevitable moments of self-doubt.
Love it. Stay tuned, everybody.
You know, it's funny because Proctor actually frames courage not as like the absence of fear, but as the willingness to act in spite of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
He uses this analogy of a trapeze artist.
Okay.
They can't grab the next trapeze until they let go of the one they're holding.
Right.
And that leap of faith can be scary,
Totally.
but it's also the only way to actually move forward.
That's a great analogy. It's like we have to be willing to step outside of that comfort zone, even when it feels scary, to get to those bigger goals.
Exactly.
So how do we cultivate that courage, especially when those doubts start like swirling around?
Well, Proctor talks about the importance of faith.
Okay.
Not necessarily religious faith, but faith in ourselves. Yeah.
The process and then something bigger than ourselves.
Okay.
He believes that when we tap into that deeper sense of faith,
Yeah.
it gives us the strength and resilience to keep going even when things get tough.
It's like having that unwavering belief that things will work out even if we don't know exactly how. That's pretty powerful.
Right.
Especially when things are uncertain.
It is.
Is there anything else that we can do to like support ourselves on this journey?
Yeah.
Anything to help us stay focused and motivated?
Proctor is a huge advocate for practicing gratitude.
Oh,
He even suggests keeping a gratitude journal,
interesting.
writing down like 10 things you're grateful for every single day.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But when we focus on the good, even the small things,
Yeah.
it shifts our energy from lack to abundance.
So it's like retraining our brains to notice the positive, and then we just attract more positive experiences.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of attracting more good stuff, this whole concept of abundance,
Yeah.
it's kind of tricky.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to say abundance mindset,
Right.
but what does that really look like in practice?
Right.
Does it mean we should just be like, oh yeah, money's just going to fall out of the sky?
Not exactly. It's more about cultivating this belief that there is enough for everyone,
Okay.
that the universe is inherently abundant.
I like that.
Proctor talks about generosity being a key part of this mindset.
Oh, interesting.
Not just like giving money, but giving our time, our energy, our talents.
So it's more holistic than that.
It is?
It's about shifting from that scarcity mindset where we're always afraid of losing what we have to an abundance mindset where we're just open to more.
Exactly.
You know, I'm just being honest here. But sometimes I struggle with that whole idea of feeling worthy of wealth and success.
That's such a common feeling.
Is it?
And Proctor addresses it head on.
Okay, good.
He argues that we're all inherently worthy of abundance, that it's like our birthright.
That's a nice idea.
It is. He even uses the metaphor of a child. A child doesn't question their worthiness of love or care.
Right.
They just expect it.
That's true. But what about those voices in our heads
Yeah.
that tell us we're not good enough, or that money's the root of all evil, or that successful people are greedy?
Right.
Where did those beliefs come from?
Yeah.
How do we break free from those?
Those beliefs are often rooted in like societal conditioning,
Yeah.
cultural narratives, or even past experiences.
Makes sense.
But Proctor really encourages us to challenge them.
Okay.
He says that money is simply a tool.
Yep.
It's neutral.
Uh-huh.
It's how we use it
Yeah.
that determines whether it's a force for good or for bad.
So it's about taking back our power and choosing how we relate to money instead of letting those old beliefs control our relationship with it.
Exactly.
I like that. So how do we actually use money as a force for good?
Yeah.
Does Proctor give any specifics?
He emphasizes the importance of aligning our financial goals with a higher purpose.
So what are we passionate about?
Exactly.
What impact do we want to make?
Yeah. When we connect our wealth creation to something bigger than ourselves, it just becomes more meaningful.
That makes sense. It's not just about accumulating wealth for the sake of it.
Right.
It's about using it as a resource to create change and live a life of purpose.
Exactly.
But let's not forget, this is still a deep dive into You Were Born Rich.
Right.
A book about wealth creation.
Yes.
Does Proctor have any practical advice on actually building wealth, or is it all this mindset stuff?
He definitely addresses the practical side of things.
Okay, good.
While he emphasizes the importance of mindset, he doesn't shy away from the practical steps involved in creating financial abundance.
Okay, cool. So let's get into that. So we've talked about mindset, we've talked about purpose, but what about the nuts and bolts of building wealth?
Right.
Does Proctor actually give specific advice about managing money and investing, all that stuff?
He does. He dedicates a lot of the book to practical strategies.
Okay.
One of the biggest things he talks about is managing finances wisely. You know, tracking spending, creating a budget, developing a plan for saving and investing.
That makes sense.
He even shares a story about how he used to carry around a small notebook and write down every penny he spent.
Wow.
Just so he could become more aware of his spending habits.
That's a good idea. I'm definitely guilty of mindless spending sometimes.
Yeah, it's a great way to identify areas where you can cut back.
Okay, so I'm going to try that notebook trick.
Right.
What about investing, though?
Yeah.
That feels so intimidating, especially when you're just starting out.
It can be. He encourages us to learn about different investment options.
Okay.
And find what aligns with our risk tolerance and financial goals.
That makes sense.
He also says it's really important to get advice from qualified financial professionals.
So we don't have to figure it all out on our own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about being willing to learn and seek guidance from people with expertise.
Yeah. It feels like investing has its own language sometimes, so it's good to know that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely.
So besides all those practical strategies, is there anything else Proctor emphasizes when it comes to building that lasting wealth?
He's a growth.
Right.
He actually quotes Thomas Jefferson,
Oh, really?
who said, "I'm a great believer in luck, and I find that the harder I work, the more I have of it."
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the fact that we create our own luck
Absolutely.
just by putting in the effort and constantly learning and growing,
Exactly.
not just waiting for opportunities to come to us.
Right.
This has been an incredible deep dive into You Were Born Rich.
It has.
I feel like we covered so much.
You did.
From the power of belief and visualization
Yes.
to those practical tips on managing money and investing.
Yeah, it's a book that offers a holistic approach to wealth creation,
Yeah.
integrating mindset and action and a deep understanding of our own potential.
And it really comes down to recognizing our own worthiness, aligning with our purpose, and taking the steps to create the life we want.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question from Bob Proctor himself.
Okay.
He asks, if you truly believe you were born rich, rich in potential and opportunities and the ability to create the life you desire, what would you do differently starting today?
That's a good one.
Take some time to think about that. And remember, you have the power within you to create a life of abundance and fulfillment.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep those minds open and those goals set high.